Your local election headquarters. Here's Fred Childers with This Week in Louisiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. The Louisiana Republican Party has started the formal process that likely will lead to Slidell pastor John Raymond being removed from his elected seat on the Republican State Central Committee. Raymond, well known in Baton Rouge and St. Tammany political circles, was convicted Monday on 4 juvenile cruelty charges stemming from incidents at the school he founded in Slidell. Raymond had been elected to the Republican State Central Committee back in March. Derek Babcock, chairman of the Louisiana Republican Party, said under the party's bylaws, Raymond is now subject to removal due to his conviction. A proposed ammonia plant in St. Rose has community members up in arms. A community hearing about the new plant brought hundreds out to have their voices heard. Rick Gogrieve reports.
It was like a tin of sardines in the meeting room at the St. Rose Library. The hearing was to allow residents to share their concerns about a proposed ammonia plant that many residents say will threaten their neighborhood. The room has space for 50 or 60 people. Nearly 200 showed up.
So many of our residents showed that they are in opposition to this ammonia plant, this St. Charles Clean Fuels ammonia plant coming to our neighborhood.
Due to this overwhelming crowd, the fire department was called and the meeting was shut down just about 30 minutes in.
What I'm proud of today is so many people out here came out, the community rallied. It was a wonderful thing to see.
While this crowd may have been a shock to some, it was not to most. Kimbrell Eugene Tre tells us that she tried to warn the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality ahead of time that a large crowd was going to be attending, but she says DEQ wouldn't listen.
We sent an email to LDEQ requesting a larger venue because we knew that the people of St. Rose were concerned about these chemicals coming into our neighborhood.
A new hearing has been requested, and the residents say all eyes are now on DEQ to hold the hearing in a larger venue.
Well, now they have accountability. They have a lot of people now that they are accountable to.
That was Rick Gogrieve reporting. Over 4 years since the COVID-19 pandemic began, now a group of Louisiana legislators are taking aim at the policies put in place during the health emergency. The first meeting was structured as a way to look at policies that worked and some that may not have. The director of the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness explained how he is changing how the department works. Lawmakers questioned the push for isolation and other health measures during the governor's executive orders.
It seemed like it was more focused on isolation, containment, whatever, and not actual care. What do we do with someone who does get sick from this? How do we manage their care? And that part seems to not be.
I understand what you're saying, and not being a doctor, I'm kind of reluctant to talk to that. But I will tell you this: is going through a couple of these rehearsals, and then having worked with the Strategic National Stockpile with the U.S. Marshals. What you've got to be focused on is you got to get a vaccine as quick as possible.
Lawmakers invited a doctor from Texas that claimed to have a treatment for COVID during the pandemic. A second meeting on Thursday will hear from the Department of Health. Gun violence is prevalent throughout Louisiana, especially in New Orleans. NOPD is teaming up with a U.S. attorney to promote gun safety. LBJ reports.
The proliferation of guns in our community contribute to the significant gun violence we experience, but also access to guns by children, creating a host of problems.
They equate a gun with a game, and they have so much exposure to television associated with guns that for many of them, they don't understand the level of lethality associated with guns, and so we're seeing an increase of kids taking those guns to school.
The access to guns has also resulted in a heartbreaking stat of children being shot accidentally, and there's the issue of gun thefts.
A lot of firearms have been stolen And especially during the period of 2017 to 2020, over 1 million firearms were stolen nationwide. And a third of the households of which these firearms were stolen from have children.
For all these reasons, NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick and U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Louisiana, Dwayne Evans, have come together to promote safe firearm storage. It's all part of a national effort called Safe Storage of Firearms, Unload It, Lock It, Store It, pointing residents in the direction for help.
As far as where to get a gun safe from, or even a lockbox or a trigger lock for your particular firearm, you can get in contact with ATF, and they can give you information as to where to buy these accessories.
The city of New Orleans has also conducted free trigger lock giveaways. In the end, authorities are hoping to keep safety in the forefront.
We know that most people are responsible in their gun ownership, but we just ask that people use common sense.
That was LBJ reporting. The Louisiana Department of Insurance doubled the number of grants awarded for the Fortified Roof Program from 300 to 600. This comes after 12,000 people signed up for the lottery last week. In a statement, Insurance Commissioner Tim Temple said, quote, "The high level of engagement shows that Louisianans recognize the need to build more resiliently, but it also underscores how much work lies ahead." Well, the election is inching closer, so we spoke with the Louisiana Secretary of State about election integrity and what people need to know before heading to the polls. Renee Allen reports.
As you mentioned, Secretary of State Nancy Landry is embarking on a statewide tour to meet with local election officials to get feedback and promote Louisiana elections, safety, security, and accuracy.
Our election equipment is never, ever connected to the internet, despite what you may hear, and it's kept under lock and key when we're not using it.
According to Landry, Louisiana is nationally ranked in the top 10 for election integrity. The Secretary of State attributes the ranking to what she calls the 4 Ps: people's policies, procedures, and the physical security of election equipment.
And so only our people ever touch our equipment, and they program it, they do the maintenance on it.
Landry explains the highest turnout is always during a presidential election. The anticipation is for a 68 to 71% turnout. November's election will be Landry's first presidential election as Secretary of State.
I was with the Secretary of State's office before, so I'm ready. Like I told people when I was running, I'll be ready to hit the ground running, and I have been.
During election season, there are often many rumors circulating. Landry says get your election information from the Secretary of State's website, the Go Vote mobile app, the Clerk of Court, or Register a Voter's office.
Only get your information from trusted election sources, and you can't go wrong if you do that.
And you can even get a sample ballot on the Go Vote app and see what's on your ballot before you go vote. Renee Allen reporting, KLFY News 10.
Well, we are just weeks away from the presidential election, and the Louisiana Democratic Party is feeling hopeful about the energy around Kamala Harris. But they are also starting from the ground up with new community engagement. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht reports.
After some stinging defeats in the 2023 election cycle and new leadership, the Louisiana Democratic Party is starting from the ground up. Chairman Randall Gaines says that they are focusing on local interactions and encouraging young people to run for office.
We want to establish a network of leadership throughout the state that's responsive to the needs of those people in the local communities. Not just from the top.
They have executive committees in all 64 parishes to listen to the needs of the people to formulate their messaging as a party. While Louisiana's electoral votes are all but certain to go to Donald Trump, Gaines says with Kamala Harris taking the top of the ticket, it has renewed a sense of excitement for people across the state to get involved with the party and their community.
The support and enthusiasm that Kamala Harris brought to this political climate in Louisiana has been incredible. It's been through the roof.
But voter registration numbers are not as high as 2020. Gaines says the Harris effect is reflected in women greatly outpacing men in their registration.
I would think that, it's showing the results of her candidates is showing. The results of the increased level of enthusiasm and excitement has been demonstrated by the voter registration.
Gaines says that they are working on a Get Out the Vote initiative with their focus on the 6th congressional race for the state. He says it will take time to build up the party to tackle the Republican supermajority in the legislature and statewide offices, but he has support behind the groundwork. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
The Democratic National Committee announced it is sending money to every state Democratic Party in the country for the first time to help down ballot races in the final weeks before the election. Florida is getting $400,000, $100,000 to Missouri, $70,000 to Idaho, and only $55,000 here in Louisiana. The Louisiana Democrats say they will be focusing their attention on that 6th congressional race, which is the newly drawn majority-minority seat. The Louisiana delegation continues to push for Social Security reform, but the changes to make it more fair could cost more. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Some controversy in Congress after Louisiana Congressman Clay Higgins made headlines for a rant posted on social media that some may have even called racist. In a since deleted tweet on X, Higgins called Haiti the, quote, nastiest country in the Western Hemisphere and repeated claims that migrants are, quote, eating pets. Democratic Congressman Troy Carter reacting to that tweet, saying, in part, we all owe each other better than this, but as elected officials, we should hold ourselves to an even higher standard. Hate-filled rhetoric like this is not just offensive, it is dangerous. A bill aimed at Social Security reform is gaining traction in Congress. Members of Louisiana's delegation are at the forefront of working to get it passed. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down the Social Security Fairness Act for us.
Public workers who may pay into a pension rather than Social Security for their whole careers experience a hit to their monthly payments when they retire through two programs called the Government Pension Offset and Windfall Elimination Provision. The Social Security Fairness Act would do away with both those reductions to retirees' payments.
There should be a little bit of a ding, an appropriate ding on how much you get if half your work life you didn't pay into social. But the ding they're getting, the penalty they're getting, is far in excess of what they should.
The bill was recently discharged from a House committee with over 200 members signing on to put it to a vote on the floor. Over in the Senate, a companion bill is getting support. Lawmakers have to mull over the estimated nearly $200 billion price tag that some fear will inch Social Security even closer to insolvency. Senator Bill Cassidy, who was working on larger reforms, supports the bill.
I think the bill has a greater chance of passing if the House sponsors are able to find a pay-for, so to speak, if there's a way to offset the spending.
While he strives for an overhaul to prevent Social Security from going under, Cassidy agrees that these provisions are not fair to the 2.8 million people nationwide who have to deal with it, with Louisiana having a large population of retirees impacted.
It's sometimes easier to fix a small problem if you fix the bigger problem at the same time. We fix the bigger problem. We make sure that Social Security benefits are there as promised for those who have been promised these benefits.
The bill is not expected to get a vote in either chamber until after the election. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
State leaders are celebrating new FEMA funding for flood mitigation efforts in Louisiana. Congressman Troy Carter announcing 13 programs will receive a portion of $124 million, while U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy announced an additional $81 million towards 18 projects. This is all part of FEMA's Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant program, which provides funding to reduce or eliminate the risk of constant flood damage to buildings. Well, the fentanyl problem in New Orleans has the health department looking for answers. We'll tell you all about it next.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. The City of New Orleans Health Department has developed a division to deal with the fentanyl crisis. LBJ spoke with the division's director, who pointed out the alarming facts of how the drug is affecting the community.
Don't assume that whether it be any type of drug is okay to use. In today's day, when they lace the drugs with fentanyl, such a small dosage of fentanyl can kill you.
There's so many parents that are out there, again, 300 last year, 300 the year before, 300 this year, that want someone in jail for the rest of their life for killing their son or daughter, for dealing them a deadly dose of fentanyl.
Fentanyl is just, it's spinning out of control. It's killing a lot of young adults, a lot of young people. It's just killing people. And there's no excuse for this.
What we probably have now is those people who were addicts then are still addicts now, and they're winding up pulling out on the street to buy drugs.
Every day in America, nearly 300 young people die from fentanyl and other related overdoses.
But this challenge also has roots outside our borders, outside the borders of the United States. It's a global challenge that demands global action.
Last year, we had 265 homicides, and we might as well say 500 fentanyl deaths.
Last year in New Orleans, we lost 523 individuals to accidental drug-related deaths. 86% of those tested positive for fentanyl. So we do know that the majority of the people who are dying from drug overdose at least have fentanyl in their system.
That's almost 2 people per day, correct?
That's right, yeah. And we've seen, unfortunately, a pretty steady increase over the last few years in terms of our drug-related deaths in the parish.
Dana Wilkos is the Opioid Special Projects Coordinator for the New Orleans Health Department, and she's painting the picture of the effects of the drug on our community. Who's most affected?
So last year, 75% of the individuals who died were male. 56% of them were Black. So we know it's mostly Black males.
Wow, that's who's being affected in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, yes. And we have seen across the country a pretty significant increase in drug overdose deaths among people of color. They are impacted more substantially, but we've also seen a really rapid rise in deaths amongst people of color.
For that reason, Orleans coroner Dr. Dwight McKenna has spoken up since he's been in office, witnessing how many residents have landed in the city's morgue.
We're sounding the alarm to parents, to young people, to everybody who will listen, to tell you about the dangers of this drug. That we've never seen anything like this deadly opioid.
What's even more dangerous and frightening is that the drug is being combined with other drugs and the user unknowingly ingests fentanyl.
That could be some type of pill that is marketed as another opioid, so say a Percocet, but there's fentanyl in it. We're even hearing of instances where amphetamines like cocaine or methamphetamines are having trace amounts of fentanyl in there, which is especially dangerous if somebody hasn't built up a tolerance to fentanyl and they come into contact with that.
The health department has sprung into action with a number of initiatives making the drug Narcan readily available to combat overdose and training workspaces and individuals on helping out.
We have our Narcan training programs, overdose response programs. We also, the New Orleans EMS has partnered with Odyssey House, Louisiana to dispatch quick response teams to the scene of an overdose. Those are comprised of social workers, so it's an effort to get to that person right away, to try to provide support to them, whatever kind of resources they might need. We are also partnering, the New Orleans Health Department is partnering with the DA's office to form an overdose fatality review team. That's in the very early stages. We're hoping to start that early next year, but that's going to give us a little bit more insight as to the people who we are losing in Orleans Parish. We have this very basic demographic data, but we don't know much about whether they've been incarcerated, how many times they've been in treatment. So this will allow us to do deep dives on individuals who have passed.
As for the living, Coroner McKenna has a warning.
Young people, if you're gonna use drugs, and I don't want you to use drugs, but if you've made the decision, you better be doggone sure that what you're buying or what you're doing has not been mixed with fentanyl, or you're not gonna wake up.
For WGNO News, I'm LBJ.
Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
All right, looking ahead to the coming week, on Monday, the Baton Rouge Press Club will host a forum for 3 candidates running for the Public Service Commission. That would be District 2 seat. That will be at noon. On Tuesday, the Louisiana Resilience Task Force will meet at 9. On Wednesday, the House Agriculture Committee will meet at the Capitol at 10. Thank you so much for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay informed, and I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.